critical path analysis, or CPA, involves the following steps. Step 1. Identify the objective of the project. For example, building a factory in 6 weeks. Step 2. Put the tasks that make up the project into the right sequence and draw a network diagram. Number 3. Add the durations of each of the activities. Number 4. Identify the critical path, those activities that must be finished on time for the project to be finished in the shortest time. Number 5. Use the network as a control tool when problems occur during the project. Okay, the critical path and network diagram definitions, you can find it on page 406. A network diagram uses the following notations. An arrow indicates each activity. An activity takes up time and resources. A node circle indicates the end or beginning of each activity. Okay, this is an example of installing a new machine, the network. So we put the activities in sequence, in the correct sequence. Next, we will put under the activities the time taken for each activity. After we do that, we can calculate the CPA. So how do we do that? So let's move on to the next slide. Oh, before that, let's talk about the component of a node. Yeah, so a node is a circle, and we have a node number, and earliest start time, EST, which is on the top, and then latest finish time, which is LFT, on the bottom. Okay, let's do some exercise. So here is on table 27.1, all the activities of building a house with the objective of building it in 42 days. And on the table 27.2, the durations of each activity. Given these two tables, how to construct the CPA? Okay, like the earlier guidance. So from those information, we draw the network diagram. Yeah, we put down the activities according to the sequence and then the durations. Now let's calculate the CPA. First, we need to calculate the earliest start time, EST. EST is the activities that is an earliest time each activity can begin, taking into account all of the preceding activities. If there is more than one route, choose the longest time. So let's start. Node 1 is starting time is 0. Node 2, so it will be 0 plus activity duration of activity A, which is 8. And then for node 3 is 8 plus 14 is 22. Now the challenge comes for node 4 because there are two routes that come into node 4. So in this case, we choose the longest time. Yeah, so for 8 plus 12 is 20, or 0 plus 6, which is 6. So we choose the longest, which is 20. So we put down 20 on the EST. And then for node 5, this is the same challenge we are facing. So we calculate for the route with the activity F is 32, with the activity D is 26. So we pick the longest, which is 32. For node 6, also the same. There are two activities, two nodes, two routes or activities. So for G, that will be 35. For H, which is 34, so we'll choose the 35. For node 7 is 35 plus activity I, which is 38. Then node 8 is 38 plus 4 is 42. So let's move on to the latest finish time, LFT. Latest time an activity can finish without delaying the whole project. If there is more than one route, choose the shortest time. So LFT, the start of LFT is the same, same as EST, which is 42 for node 8. For node 7 is 42 minus 4 is 38. For node 6 is 38 minus 3 is 35. For node 5 is 35 minus 3, 32. Now the challenge is for node 4 because there are two routes that are going into the node 4. Yeah, so let's calculate. So we have a choice here. Either we take the GIH route or JIGD route. Yeah. So let's calculate using the GD root is 32 minus 6, which is 26. For using the H root is 35 minus 14 is 21. Yeah, so we choose the shortest, so we put 21 for the LFT. Okay, then we continue calculating node 3, node 2, and then node 1 should be the same. Yeah, the start, EST and LFT should be the same. Okay, we also need to calculate total float. So what is a total float? Total float is the amount of time an activity can be delayed without delaying whole project duration. The formula is total float equal to LFT minus duration minus EST. So let's calculate for task D. It should be 32 minus 6 minus 20 is equal to 6. Free float is the length of time an activity can be delayed without delaying the start of the following activities. So free float is only related to certain activities. The formula is EST next activity minus duration minus EST of this activity. So for example, activity B. Yeah, so let's calculate what is the free float. It's 20 minus 6 minus 0 is 14. Okay. Now from this we finish calculation. Now we can determine what is the critical path. Remember, critical path are those activities that have no spare time. So the EST, the nodes where EST and the LFT are the same, that will be the critical node in the critical path. So let's identify which ones are those nodes on the diagram. Let's have a look. So from node 1 to node 2, which is activity A, let's mark it. And then from node 2 to node 3, it is activity E, let's mark it. Then from node 3 to node 5, activity F. Node 5 to node 6, activity G. Node 6 to node 7, activity I. node 7 to node 8, activity J. Okay, so the critical path is A, E, F, G, I, J. Right, in the previous slide, you already learned how to calculate total floats and free floats. So let's continue with calculating all those total float and free floats. Which is activity B, C, D, and H. B, C, D, and H. Okay, the formula of total float is equal to TF, total float equal to LFT minus duration minus EST. So let's calculate for P. Total float is 15, free float is 14, C total float is 1, free float is 0, D is total float 6, free float 6, activity H total float 1, free float 1. So don't forget the difference between FF and TF. Next we talk about dummy activities. Dummy activities is not strictly an activity. It is shown by dotted line on a network. It does not consume time or resources. The purpose is just to show logical dependency between other activities that must be included in certain networks to prevent an illogical path from being created. Okay, so taking our example again for building a house, the activity A and B going into one node, it come out giving activity C and D. This drawing is not correct. Yeah, why is not correct? Because to start C and D, the drawing states that A and B must be finished first, which is not true, isn't it? Yeah, because to start C, you only require A to finish. Yeah, so what is the real situation? The correct drawing is like this. Yeah, A to C and then B to D. The dummy is that one. Yeah, from node 2 to node 4. Okay, thank you for your time. See you in the next time. Thank you.